Morgan. Welcome back to Do It for the Story. I'm Stacey.
I'm Morgan.
And happy Mother's Day to you, Morg. Actually, by the way, we're recording today. It's Mother's Day.
Thank you. I am enjoying, we're just going to keep this mocktail thing going.
Yeah.
This Kalo, is that how you pronounce them? Kalo?
Kalo?
Hemp infused seltzer.
For those not watching, it's Kalo.
With a little, what is that?
An
asterisk.
Accent?
Accent. And yeah, it's a hemp infused drink. This one's ruby red grapefruit. What are you drinking over there? You got black cherry?
Oh, I didn't know we had different flavors. Yeah, but I was just looking at the back, and it's filtered. Seems pretty good.
Oh
Filtered
my God,
carbonated water,
15 calories?
cane sugar, natural flavors, 1 gram full spectrum hemp extract, 15 milligram cannabinoids, and phytonutrients, lemon juice concentrate.
Yeah, and then what was interesting when I Googled it, because I just picked these up at
Yeah,
Annabeth's
where did you
downtown.
get these?
Annabeth's downtown, that really cute.
And they're
she's got
vegan?
like the wine and
Made in the
wine,
USA.
beer, cheese kind of shop, but then it's got all the cute, like you could buy a whole gift in a party bag kind of thing, like a party bag gift.
That's really good to know, because I was wondering that actually, like where
She had a really cute whole shelf of different non-alcoholic that were good. Because she has, she picks out good stuff.
Good to know.
Yeah, it was great.
Because I know Lynn's was saying in New York, you can get, they're not this, but another like THC drink or like a CBD drink that we don't. I was just wondering in Maryland, let us know if you've seen them anywhere other than Annabelle's. Is that what you said?
Annabeth's.
Annapolis.
On Maryland Avenue, cutest little avenue, but also cutest little shop. But, the other thing is, I'm curious to know with this, like a little more Googling, but it's the hemp infused, but it doesn't say THC. But when you go to the website, you still had to put in 21 or over.
Yeah, I think it's anything when it's, the hemp one.
Like it's not like I'm saying I don't think I could have bought it yesterday if I wasn't over 21.
Did they card you?
She knows who I am.
No, but it's also probably different there. But it's interesting because like New York, I think Lindsay was getting stuff at Whole Foods.
Oh, nice.
But you can get things online. But
I
was just
love
curious
it.
because I didn't. Also, the shipping.
Just the taste is so good.
It's really good. It's really clean.
It's really clean.
Love that, Kalo. So again,
we're not sponsored, but we are looking for a mocktail sponsorship. We'll take it. Okay?
Yeah, but also we on this the non-alcohol drinks. It's actually pretty amazing because honestly, even when you're like, oh, I just want to have a glass of wine and I don't want to get turned, that's what the mocktail is giving. Mm-hmm. And the ones we tried yesterday, if anyone saw our Mother's Day Instagram reels, it was now I have to look at it. Delure, I think it was a wine, but it was the alcohol removed. And it was not trying to get turned.
Yeah, it was
great.
It was great. It was
really refreshing,
sparkling rosé, and yes, it was very refreshing. It had like a peach light apple hint, and
it was good. I don't like sweet,
I don't
and
either.
it didn't
it was
have
not
sweet.
It actually tasted like a wine that I would want to drink.
Totally agreed,
but worked.
Loved it.
With the cannabis mixture, I was very enjoying my Mother's Day up at Mom and Dad's. Yeah, so we did do that. So on top of our mocktails, we were up at Mom and Dad's. Live an hour and a half away from Annapolis, in the mountains, as much as Maryland can be.
Emmitsburg, Maryland. What up?
And we just had a really nice. Dad made a gorgeous meal.
He did, and it was great.
So good. Angel and our little diva, our niece, were able to run and frolic. It was just a really nice time. It was enjoyable to get together. And
we missed Linz and Coos and baby boy.
I had a good time. I did a full sketch of Mom and Dad's, the kitchen.
You
remodel.
did.
Hopefully.
Morgan's Mother's Day gift was
to
to then change Mom's idea of what her kitchen reno was.
Well, she did ask me.
She did
ask
ask
me for my opinion.
She did ask.
No, and then got them obviously some other little gifts. But so it was just nice to relax. And then today's actually Mother's Day.
It is.
And I had told Joe, I said, what I want for Mother's Day is I'm going to do whatever I want. So I said, I'm going to start my day. I'm going to record.
As it should be.
As it should be. I said, I want to, record the pod. And then after that, I'll check in you know, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to want to do. And then like yesterday he goes, well, I mean, are we allowed to hang out with you at all? And I said, he goes, what about dinner? I go, you can make me dinner. Okay. That's great. And then today he was like, well, do you want to do dinner or go out on the boat? And I was like, well, we got to eat. So maybe I like that idea. Actually, I'd rather you pick me up Picante. So picking me up Picante. And then if it's not raining, we're going to do
I love that.
a little cruise just down, Back Creek and just, be putzed around on my father-in-law's whaler and have a nice little Mother's Day evening.
I love that.
And then not put my son to bed, and even this morning, Joe was like, wait, I can't find this thing. And I was like, I'm going to tell you where it is, but I'm not getting out of bed. And you want the funniest thing that I heard when Joe was getting him ready, and Angel must have asked him something about, I know what it was, because he said something about Joe said something about Mother's Day. But
Angel
thought Mother's Day was yesterday because we were at Lala celebrating. He goes, Mother's Day again? And like he genuinely wait, I don't understand. It's 2 days. And, Joe then explaining it was Mother's Day.
It's every Mother's day, baby.
Well,
doll.
yeah. But
I'm
also,
kidding.
we were up at Lala's, and now, today is actual Mother's Day. And, we're going to go see, Grammy and the cousins and everything. And, but then I hear him going down the stairs, and Joe had said something like, well, Mom, it's Mom's Mother's Day, so she doesn't have to hang out with us if she doesn't want to. She gets to do whatever she wants. So she said it in however he said it. It was just explaining to him. And I think because they were talking about dinner, and he goes, is she going to be up there all day? She said something like, are we bringing her dinner up here? And I said, well, maybe you will, sweetie. I'm not the kind of person who would want to eat dinner in bed.
Did Angel bring you breakfast upstairs? Or did you go down?
I don't like food in the bed.
I don't either, but you know what I mean?
Yes,
sometimes kids just
they had to go out. They had the pancake mix because Kiki got the donut. Kiki Miles
did he make those?
So that was the whole thing. Was a good idea to get them out of the house to go get a couple other ingredients that they wanted. Then they made those. So then I had those when I came downstairs dressed and ready.
Way to go, Kiki and Miles,
yes,
number one fan.
It was perfect.
Really cute. Miles, our brother-in-law, had sent a very good Instagram kid activity, knowing that Angel likes to cook. Mm-hmm. So he made little donuts.
So he woke up, first thing he said was, can we make, the donut cookies? And then convinced Joe that you also needed to make literal donut cookies. So then when they were at the store, they got gluten-free cooking mix. So they made cookie donuts, and it was a full spread.
Angel's one hell of a salesman.
He's a one hell of a salesman, and he loves to cook. He loves to chef and bake. So they were doing that, and then they were going over to play in the mud at because it's been raining a ton, and to play in the mud at my in-laws' house.
Oh my God,
so
fun!
I'm out.
Fun. Well, it sounds like a great Mother's Day, and I love that
great.
you are getting your. We talked about it in last week's episode, or mentioned it. I was laughing about the mom that on Instagram is like, "Hey, this is how you plan your Mother's Day. She needs 3 days. 1 day's with her girlfriends. 1 day." She's getting celebrated. 1 day she's going to be with her in-laws or doing whatever the hell she wants. So it is also
Yes, exactly. Because that's the thing. We're always on and we love it. I love my child more than anything in the world.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with Angel. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't it's not draining to be the center and and now don't get me wrong. Donahue, this is Morgan speaking, my husband is so hands-on and does all the things. I would say
a lot of weekends you get a little peek of a Mother's Day weekend.
Yes.
Especially with us recording.
Totally. I'm saying that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
my husband
he's on. I'll have Angel all day.
But
it's not like he's saying I have to go babysit my son.
No.
If you're listening to this and you identify with ever saying and you're a dude saying I have to babysit my child,
God bless your significant other. And
seriously,
go to couples therapy,
and
I'll move on from that. So, but no, my point is with Donahue, it's not that I have the best partner in the world. It's just how our brains function. From the moment we wake up, we're starting to think of all the things that need to be done, even as Joe's like getting ready, stuff for Angel, my mother-in-law calls to say like, oh, hey, just make sure the clothes that Angel has are, old clothes because their yard's just tough because they have these gorgeous trees, but doesn't get any sunlight.
Yeah, but
so then it's super muddy.
The grandmother.
She's just saying, make sure that it's not a typical day in their yard with the grass. It's super muddy. He needs old clothes on.
But it's also she's calling. Like, I'm just saying, like you're saying, a natural woman, mother, grandmother reaction. I'm going to call. I'm going to organize. Sure.
But I'm saying, even in that moment when Joe's like, okay, I'm going to grab old clothes, I was like, no, please don't put him. That's not. I was like, put him in this. I know what your mom's saying when she's calling to say it's muddy. It's the certain level, And I went into immediately. My point is, immediately into let me help, and then I, did my 5 seconds, and I was like, I got to get out of here. You guys got it. Yeah, love you. Bye.
And I love that. I love that. Like and you said, we know JD doesn't need to say those things, but I love that too. That
but he's still letting me,
have your day,
have my day and my, little weekend, and so, But I think with that though, we moms are incredible human beings, and any woman that's ever given birth, any person that's ever given birth, it starts the moment you get pregnant, and then but the actual birth is just on a whole other level, whether it's easy or it's super hard. And I think that's, what we're going to go into on this Mother's Day. We've been wanting to talk about.
Well, yeah, like you're saying, mothering starts at
the very beginning. But people don't
talk
about the birthing experience.
Exactly. People don't talk about it, but not to be all, but on that point where we were just laughing, saying if you're a dad that's like, or a parent that says, I got to babysit my own kids. I've said this many times where I've just observed with people. I won't even say like friends, family, just, different interactions, or you literally may overhear it when you're at the park or grocery store, where I'm like, some of you all, especially if it's a biological child and you were there for the birth, some of you all like must have, the non-birthing parent must have forgotten what that moment was like, and that sacrifice that you can be like, not see, like what women have gone through, what they go through in that. And I'm like, and your ass is chilling for 9 months and nothing's changing. It's kind of insane. Like, I don't know. It's insane what women go through.
Yeah, it is. And I think, what really is insane though for me is it's not just, yes, what women go through is insane. And women have been doing this since the beginning of time, right? So it's that, and it's, because we've been doing it since the beginning of time, I think there is this undertone, conversation of, well, it's been done so many times before you, it can't be that hard. So there's that.
Yeah.
There's that. But then there's also, because it has to do with a period, a vagina, a woman's body, a breast, and not a breast that you're looking at in a, Kim K is in
Playboy.
Her nipple, nipple bra. It is, a breast that's being, used to feed a human. So that's what it is for me. It's the hypocrisy in, we can talk about fucking women all day long when they're hot and sexy and young and whatever. We can, it's the first scene in how many movies, of let me exploit this woman's body, all this stuff. But yet when we end up talking about something that involves women's medical health and their care and their
women's
bodies,
health, women's reproductive health,
then
and childbirth,
it's not a conversation. Then the skin isn't okay. Then you're asked to, cover up. And so, so we're going to get into today my birth story. But before we get into that, like, I want to set the tone of even right now, 2024, just what was it last week, that there was an ad for lactation cookies up in Times Square. It's a woman who looks about 9 months pregnant. The cookies are...
It's not sexual. Her boobs aren't out. Her breasts aren't out.
Well, her breasts are out. They have the cookies over the nipples, I'm saying. It's just a... It's a
there
woman,
was two different pictures. Yeah,
there's two different pictures. But so the one with the cookies are over the nipples, and, she's 9 months pregnant. It is what is the most natural, like...
Yeah.
This is a mom that has large breasts because she's about to feed this baby, and they're advertising that women need help lactating. If you're a mom, if it wasn't you, it was your friend that had an issue with lactation. And the billboard was taken down. And it was taken down.
Yeah, this was just this week.
Yeah, it was taken down because it was inappropriate, deemed inappropriate. And it was supposed to run all the way through Mother's Day. Now, you Google other sexy billboards, Victoria's Secret, any model.
We were just doing it right before the episode. There was a model that in 2023 had a billboard up in Times Square and said it was a big win. She was a model and also an adult sex worker. And she was like, this was such a big win because she was able to have on her billboard, it included her Instagram handle and her handle to her OnlyFans page.
So it was an ad for her personal.
Yeah, but they were sexy, racy photos. And just the same for like any lingerie, like you're saying, Calvin Klein constantly has had billboards up, Victoria's Secret, like all of them.
Naked women, essentially, on the side of
where it is like you're saying, the body's being shown
as sexualized, not medical,
not even medical, but in
natural form,
what the body's intended to do, how we all survived, whether you were fed formula or you were breastfed, you came from a woman's body that was intended to have breasts that then fill up with milk to feed your kid. Just like, not saying women are cows, but seriously, it's so weird that
it's the same thing.
It's the same thing, but you wouldn't be, you could post a calf drinking from its mother, and that's okay. But as soon as it's like, no, not a human,
not a woman.
We're America.
Not a woman.
We are scared of.
Well, but it's also, they wouldn't be scared if it was. I mean, how many women have been half naked on a Times Square
Our former
billboard?
first lady was on the cover, not Times Square, but I'm just saying it's kind of like you're saying, the hypocrisy.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
And so my reason for bringing that up, though, is one, obviously Mother's Day. Of course, two, we're talking about my childbirth story. But really my point in bringing that up is it is yet one more thing that is told to women. You're not allowed to exist this way. You're not allowed to talk about these things. You're not allowed to share. So think of experiences that as women, when you first got pregnant or when you had your baby or when you had your miscarriage or when you had your period, think about the thing that happened to you during that time that you were surprised because you didn't know, because no one was ever allowed to have a conversation with you about it.
Because
it's taboo.
Or talk about their own experience. So you go through it and then you're like, oh my God, this is just me, or I don't know what's happening. Because it's just like you were saying, how many times, even it starts with the period. Like the Amy Schumer bit where she's like, you're in an office, or not even, like, do you have a tampon? Like you can say, I've got to go pee, any guy, any woman, but then as soon as it's like, oh no, that's a woman thing. Don't mention it. Don't talk about it. Like I recently just learned that the term, which I'm trying not to use it, and I was telling my girlfriends now, when someone is pregnant or a couple, is pregnant, they are having a baby, I try not to say she's expecting, because the term expecting actually was used, okay, I'm not giving the perfect terminology, back in the day, because, when women weren't even allowed.
She wasn't allowed to say I'm pregnant?
Say I'm pregnant.
My God.
I mean, my own mother-in-law was like, yeah, when growing up, you weren't, she's like, I remember at my grandmother's house, you weren't allowed to say pregnant in her presence. It was like expecting.
I honestly can't even, there's not enough time in the day for me to, I could literally scream hearing that.
I
think that's what I'm trying to say is like, it's so infuriating. And I think it's also so infuriating. Actually, the other thing I want to bring up is like these socks I'm wearing. This is all along the same realm. So if you're watching this, thank you, Jinxie, for our gift. I love moms. These socks. So Social Goods is a company that will make products and then sell the products, on behalf of a cause. So like for these socks, they partnered with a designer in New York, Sarah Clary, I think her name is, Clary. And it's called For the I Love Moms collection. And so one of the things in the collection, there's like sweatshirts and stuff. And then one of the things is these socks, and they're very comfortable.
They are very comfortable.
Cute. And what they're addressing is what they say. I'm just going to read it. We are addressing a hard truth. The number of women who die giving birth in America each year has nearly doubled in the last 2 decades. To raise awareness of the country's maternal health crisis and support the ongoing efforts to end it, we've collaborated with New York stylist and then Sarah Clary on the I Love Moms collection.
Love that.
So bring awareness from this pod to say, like, go buy some stuff from their collection, but also the fact that, like, we even have to have organizations that are raising money because of what the fuck in the last 2 decades, it's doubled. I mean,
no, it's really, really sad.
It's sad and it's scary. And the thing is, it's
not sad. It's terrifying.
It's terrifying. We are the generation. We are the millennials that this is happening to us and our friends.
Right.
And so I'm giving you, all of this information to just ground us in the fact that be part of, again, our theme, welcome in, be part of the conversation, men.
Yeah, be part of the conversation of
normalizing exactly women's health, because it's
mm-hmm.
way more than the childbirth stuff. I mean, we see this with how long you talked about the PCOS and endometriosis.
Just women's sexuality in general.
It takes so long for people to even get diagnosed with these things. It's all the same topic. It's all hating on women and not allowing us to speak up and be uplifted and supported.
Right. And like you're saying, we can go forever and talk about all the shit that's going on and has been going on with women and women's reproductive health and not just women's reproductive health, but women's health in general, like women's sexual health. I think there's something recently, even like a sex toy company did an article about the lack of funding and like funding that gets turned down specifically when it's literally like a condition or something that involves the vagina, AKA women. It was pretty astronomical. But it's also, if you're a woman, if you're anyone, we're all in this together. We're all humans. You all came from a vagina. Every single person listening to this, It's also, like you were saying, even things you can do to, when you were saying like cover up as a mom, when you're feeding your baby. Sorry, that's fucking weird. If you don't want to cover up, you don't have to. If you're someone that wants to, you can do that. But you don't need to also be the person to be like, oh my God, this woman came into the restaurant and I was serving and, she had her whole boob out. Who cares? Your kid's eating at the table. Where would you like her to go to the bathroom? You don't need to make comments about it. And I say this because I've been in the situations too, where guy friends are like, oh my God, so-and-so was here feeding her baby and like her whole tit was out. And I'm like, okay. Did you have a problem with that? Were you going to go jack off?
Right. Like, why do you care?
So I say that too, because it's like, you don't need to make comments. You don't need to roll your eyes. One, you don't have tits. You're not going to give birth if you're a man making the comments. But you also can be the person that says, and I'm not saying this to a stranger, but like you have a friend come over to the house, like, do you need anything? Do you need it's just the little things you can do. You can also ask, if you're a guy, you can still ask your female, like we talked about in last week's episode with friends of the opposite sex. You can still ask your female friend, how are you doing? How are you feeling?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that you need? You can still do that in the way that a girlfriend would show up and also take notes. Because if you're in the situation or your wife is, how would you want her to be? Yeah. Anyway. So with that, I know, and today's, topic we said it's Mother's Day. Like Morgan was saying, it starts at before birth, but we're going to talk about, Morgan's going to share some of her birth story today with Angel. So I will take more of the interviewer question, helping to keep things flowing. But this is also a topic I just wanted to say personally, thank you for sharing. Like we always say, welcome in. And to that about women sharing, we all come from mothers and our mothers come from mothers. And it's interesting that it was alarming to me, the more women I've talked to generationally too, because I think that's what's so great about being a millennial is we are the generation, I feel like it's starting to make the change over, mental health. Let's talk about things more. And even more with Gen Z and Alpha, right? We're helping to set that standard. So the older we get and the more we experience things and where like you have or our sisters have or I have turned to our mothers, our aunts, our grandmothers, our, those women in our lives that are our friends. You have many friends that are baby boomers that are not related to you.
Oh, yeah.
Is once you share your vulnerability, then these women that have been through it too start to share the things that you're like, I didn't know that. Some of it, yes, sure. All women aren't going to just sit you down and tell you about the worst because there's hormones, there's chemicals, but you don't want to just focus on that with someone that maybe hasn't had children yet or is like 20 years old. Like, I don't know if I will have kids, But when talking to those women, some of them can't recall their birth story or all of their labor story because, not me personally, but some of my friends' mothers that are a little bit older, they were drugged.
Well, there's
during labor.
Yeah, there's the drug piece, but then there's a part just so you just so naturally you want to have more children, like your body forgets.
Well, no, that and the body forgets, but these stories specifically
totally
were women that said to me, because they said with my second child or my third child, I said, do not. They were like, I was put under and my husband wasn't in the room, either wasn't allowed to be or wasn't here, whatever. It used to be like that back in the day. And so they literally were drugged. And so that's also part of why the sharing wasn't there.
Oh,
because they woke up and were like, what?
For sure. But even before, like there's been so many iterations in history of birth and the way that it's done. And unless you were in, an indigenous community, there was always shaming. I mean, you can take it back to, fucking royalty.
Totally. It was a taboo topic to not be talked about.
Right.
But I say that too, because then it's recent where like, that was the norm in childbirth, was to give women like Valium and drugs and shit.
Absolutely.
So I say that because it's intense topics for all of them, but it's an intense topic, especially your birth story. Like, I know it can drill up it was a lot you went through. So at any time, if we need to take a pause or...
No, I'll be fine because I'm the type of person that you just got to power on through.
Power on through.
But it is definitely, it is triggering, but it's also just, I think it's what even, like I was saying with the social goods, it's like the fact that we even have to have the conversation. I mean, the fact that I'm not an anomaly, like this is the norm.
I know,
it's so much the norm that we just had a billboard taken down that was bright pink for lactation cookies. I mean, that's what I think for me. Yeah. It's like, I, of course, have my own, anyone that goes through something traumatic with their physical body and their health and their mental health, you're going to be triggered. But have, a reaction that's going to send you. But it's all of the other things on top of that for me. And then the fact that, here we are with the overturning of Roe v. Wade. I mean, and, we're living in a time where, one, that can even happen, but two, where people aren't talking about it enough. People aren't fighting enough. I mean, people are not saying, you know, when you take away abortion, you take away my ability to have the support of an abortion if I have a miscarriage. Like there's, and I don't,
but it's not even that. It's just, women that have a stillbirth, which is after 13 weeks, in a lot of states now, you can't have a D&C. You have to carry.
Right. That's
and
what
deliver.
I'm saying. Exactly.
So I only say it in that way because people are still like,
right,
it's not an abortion. I'm like,
we're saying the same thing. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I'm like, you know, I want to recognize it's triggering for me, but I think the thing is that it's triggering for, I mean, really, it's only not, as far as women, it's only not triggering for the women that haven't educated themselves or haven't experienced it. That's the only way I can wrap my head around it, because if you've ever been through this and you're like, oh, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump, you are not educated. That is, to me, that's just logical and factual. Or you are just like, it's just not an important issue. I don't care, you know, that horrific experience that I had. I mean, I'm just going to be blunt. Like you just are like, I don't care about it enough. It's not important enough. But, you know, we could go down that rabbit hole all day, but I think that's what I just want to, like, again, like ground us in the fact that, you know, I'm not being vulnerable here today just to share like my story and understand that like things like this happen to women. But I think it's that things like this are now going to happen even more and more and more, and women are in danger,
and men, that means your wives, your sisters, your friends, your mothers, like all of it.
We're dying because of
this.
It's
a war against women right now, really.
And when you read, like we said earlier, that in the last 2 decades, it's nearly doubled in the last 2 decades, the number of women a year that, you know, are dying giving birth. When you are taking away abortion, it's a slippery slope for so many other things that are connected to what's deemed an abortion.
Yeah. And we'll get into that, I think, more, because we'll go too deep. Like,
oh no, yeah, I'm just saying like this is,
people don't think
real.
And
this
people,
is happening.
And just like everything, people don't think it's going to happen to you or to them.
I certainly never did.
Yeah. And everybody know, like you, and just like you were saying, people don't talk about it enough, but when you do talk about it, you then hear so many people, oh, that, you know, I had a terrible birth, this happened.
Yeah.
You know, and like you said, you're not an anomaly. But again, the shame and I don't know too, some dude thinking, oh, well, it was just I don't know. I mean, with dudes, it's not people, whatever. I don't even want to get into
I think the dads that have experienced, the ones that I know, they are now very aware, but they were like, I was in the dark before all this. Of course
they were. It's just like every dad that's like, I want to have kids. And then they have kids when the woman's saying, wait, I need a little more time. I want to do this with my life first, or da-da. And they have kids and they're like, I had no idea how much this was going to work.
And maybe they would have known if, you know, you're allowed to have a fucking lactation cookie on the fucking billboard in Times Square, you know, or like a fucking conversation and
normalize men not saying they're babysitting class. Their kids. But anyway,
so let's get into the topic. About it.
Okay. So Angel, let's start at the beginning of like you said, starts before the birth. So you're pregnant, you find out, you have to choose after you get to the certain, you know, you're far enough along, you're choosing a medical provider. Yep. Talk to us about the type you chose and kind of your decision.
Yep. So I ended up choosing to go with a midwife, and I was like, I want to go with a midwife because, of course, I had already heard horror stories about, you know, received, why am I saying, yes, it's anesthesia, but
an epidural.
An epidural. Friends of mine that like received an epidural, and then because, you really can't feel anything from the waist down, and they were in labor for too long, so they couldn't like necessarily feel some of the things that were happening.
Failed. I have a lot of girlfriends that had failed epidurals. Not saying don't get it, by the way.
No, I'm not saying don't get it at all, but I'm saying this is why I was in fear of not, especially I think growing up as like an athlete, being very connected to my pain. Like I didn't want to be in a situation where I couldn't feel something happening. And I was like, okay, so I'd like to do, I felt like, and you hear all these other horror stories of like, I don't feel my leg from this part down and all that stuff. And so a lot of those people had an epidural. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try it a different way. And so I went the midwife route, and, Joe and I were worried that if we did a midwife, but it like wasn't in the hospital, like what if we'd heard those stories too.
Totally.
Of, something went awry and then they couldn't get into the hospital in time and the baby dies, because they're not able to say, okay, take him upstairs to the OR.
Right.
And so we opted for an in-hospital midwifery, and it was literally, downstairs in the basement of this hospital, and like they had like their whole birthing room and everything. And then they're like, so if anything goes wrong, you're right here. So I was like, that sounds like the perfect combination. And so, what I didn't, and I had, other people had gone there, I didn't really, was new to Annapolis. So it wasn't like I knew a ton of specific stories, but, I hadn't heard anything negative.
Right.
And so, so when you go to this, clinic, it was very similar to what what really it is for normal OBGYN when there's a practice. There's several doctors, and, you go into birth when you go into birth, or go into labor when you go into labor. So, you don't necessarily know who you're going to get. They could be not on call or out of town.
Right.
So same thing with the midwife, which, isn't ideal, and why a lot of, solo show midwives, or like it's like them and one partner, say, well, really you should have, someone that's consistently been with you and you really know each other, and which you totally, which would be ideal in my opinion. And so I did not, know the midwife. Like I had, get to see
you
them.
didn't know the midwife that delivered
because you rotate between all the midwives.
But you had met her.
I met her, but I'd met her in an appointment.
Yeah.
And when there was like, I had a healthy birth, so there's like nothing. You go in and you go home, and you rotate between the 7 midwives.
So you weren't like, when you went in there, and this is just my curiosity, you weren't like, I want to work with, I'm going to say midwife.
No, and you
Sarah,
don't. Yeah. And you don't. Yeah.
And then, because sometimes I feel like people have like their doctor, and then they're like exactly like you're saying, you can't tell when you're going to labor.
The thing. We're
different
talking
practices.
About exactly every practice, every midwife. It's all different.
Okay.
So this was this situation. So 40 weeks comes along. I haven't given birth. They're like, if you get to 42, we need to induce because of the placenta. And so we get to 42 weeks. And they say, we need to induce. And so, of course, I'm upset. I'm like, I don't want to be induced. It's like everything I didn't want to do. Again, you never know what's going to happen. No mom, no one giving birth. There's no book. You can never write it. What does
induced mean for those of us who haven't experienced?
So they are literally giving you Pitocin to force
like in an IV.
Yeah, to force the body to go into labor. Because which is understandably so, they get worried that the placenta will eventually like not function. So they worry they can't see what the placenta is like until they're, you birth it out. So, they're like, if it's unhealthy, like we don't want the baby to be in you too long. Right. And come to find out, mine was perfect. So, Angel could have probably stayed in, but whatever. But no, I mean, I think any doctor or midwife is going to say, 2 weeks is a long time to wait. So I, get the Pitocin, and they, at first I'm like, okay, contractions. I'm, got it. I'm holding, I'm fine. Yada, yada, yada. They crank up, the Pitocin. And I think partly now looking back, it was like, I wasn't really, everyone's always said you have a strong tolerance for pain. Looking back now, I have had arthritic symptoms since I was in high school. And, so I just...
Your pain tolerance was high, so you're also like...
Normal life.
And then especially because, or I would think, given that this was your first pregnancy, first time being in labor, you're hearing, you're expecting it to be a different level of pain. And so you're like, okay, this is a different level, but I'm pushing through it.
Yeah, and I'm fine. And in the beginning too, honestly, it was like, it's kind of like period cramps. Like it wasn't like, I didn't find it shocking or anything in the first, 2 hours. And, and again, talking about, go back to our other episode, everybody's period cramps are different, and I remember having period cramps where I couldn't even stand up, so like, I'm thinking then I'm like, I'm sitting here on this ball, so I'm fine,
right.
So, they keep cranking me up. And, I find out later from a good friend who is, a doula had said, oh my God, I've never seen anyone receive that much Pitocin. That's insane. No wonder you were in so much pain. Because by the end, and I'm saying the end, at a certain point, I forget Joe, if he was here, he'd be able to say, how many hours it had been and stuff. But, after so many hours, then they've upped the Pitocin to this extreme level that then I'm in like a shit ton of pain. The other piece was because our mom, is an ER nurse and was one for, 35 years or something, and worked alongside of course, and have seen, many people giving birth. And
had given birth five times
herself,
naturally.
But also like one of her very close friends was a labor and delivery nurse. And so, they had their own like techniques and opinions of certain things that make prep for labor easier.
And also mom gave birth in the 80s. And like you're saying, had been a nurse for 35 years, but also always says she was in the time period when she was a mom. And as a nurse, she then saw the shift from informing the patient, teach them how to get through things, and then the push the drugs scenario. Yes. So she was in a different place too of understanding how to explain, I guess, that maybe nurses that are younger in their career, not as experienced, may not have gotten that experience with even seeing a natural birth. So I'm sure that was some of your...
Oh, they hadn't. They had never... The nurses that I had that day, because then once you are induced, this is me speaking from my experience. I have no idea if this is like a law or something, but like once you're induced, the midwifery is like, you have to do that in the hospital setting, right? Which I can't imagine how anyone's doing that out. It's all the medicine and everything. So then there are the regular OBGYN nurses. All the nurses that supported me, I'm not saying this is normal, but all the nurses that supported me had said that they had never seen a natural birth, or they'd only seen, maybe one of them was like, I saw too. They were literally thanked my mom and were like, that was the most incredible experience. We're going to get to the whole experience, but like they had never seen it.
I just want to back up to natural meaning.
Yeah, natural meaning no drugs. No, And so where I was getting to with the drugs piece too is, so because of, my aunt and my mom and like this history of nursing and history of childbirth, they had seen certain things that they were like, I swear by this. One of the things is this raspberry, it's like raspberry leaf tea or raspberry, and the whole point of it is that red raspberry leaf tea. The whole point of it is that you drink a certain cups, like I forget how many weeks it is. It's like 15 weeks, something like 2 months, 3 months before you're due, you start drinking this tea. And then as you get closer to the birth, you drink more and more and more and more and more.
Yeah, like you're saying, a certain amount, the cups go up.
Cups go up. And what it's supposed to do is when you get to your transition phase, like it makes it that you get to the transition phase much faster. So it's supposed to
transition meeting.
Transition
when
phase
you're in
birth.
labor.
Yeah, when you're in labor.
Got it.
There's a phase. This is everybody. There is a phase that happens when you transition, and that phase is the hardest phase because it's when your body is getting to that point of the full dilation, the 10 centimeters. You're getting to that point. And then once you're there, you actually can push. So of course, logically you would understand why that's the most difficult part. It's like the contractions are more consistent. The contractions are painful and they're happening. So the pain's happening more quickly. So you're also getting overwhelmed. Your body is getting hyped and ready to do this thing.
For those who don't have a vagina, haven't experienced, if you haven't had a baby like myself, if you have a vagina, that to give birth, the vagina has to be 10 centimeters dilated. And so I say, that because you know what 10 centimeters looks like. Softball, grapefruit. Yep. And I say that for all you two that are going, I'm thinking of some of you that are like, I've never seen a vagina, that are scared of it.
Yeah. And for those of you
that
have never seen a vagina.
What she's saying, the transition
when
of
Stacey says softball grapefruit, she's saying the size. Your vagina will get to, if you're watching us, it'll open up to like a grapefruit size. Whereas typically, think about it. When we make jokes about, I got fingered, like you typically, a guy puts one or two fingers. One or two fingers. It's one or two fingers can fit.
And I'm opening, for those listening, I'm going from...
My 2 fingers are going in. That's all that can fit. Now, it's a fist.
Do you know what's wild too? And I don't want to get us off topic, but a friend of mine's sister is an OBGYN. And when she was in med school, she had these index cards that they had to know by their fingers what was the centimeters and be able to
because that's what the doctors do.
And they would joke and help her study and be like, how many is this? And she'd be like, 6, 3. It was like this bit, like the sisters. But I was like, I love how you're over there at the flashcards being like, how many is this? And she knew.
But that's so what Stacey's referencing with that is the doctor or midwife, whomever, they use their fingers to check the dilation because you aren't going in there with a fucking ruler. You're using your fingers because it's not literal. It's not like your vagina is just this, gaping hole. Yeah. The baby's got to come through. It's ready to spread.
It's ready to open up to 10. So don't think like it's open. It's going to come out now shooting.
Yeah, it doesn't come out in a tube
ready to
form.
expand.
It's ready to expand. And the shoulders
everyone
go through
sees
and rip
different babies. You may have different baby head shapes are different sizes. So you very well be thinking, that's weird because that baby's head is larger than a grapefruit, but he was just born.
Go ahead and think about
Happy Mother's Day.
You look at that mom and if you don't know her, don't even obviously interact. But if you do, maybe give her a little extra something on Mother's Day. Maybe think of the fact that her vagina was probably ripped.
And the next time you want to complain that you're not getting enough, maybe think about her vagina.
Yeah, maybe think about how her pussy is still fucking ripped. Okay?
Woo.